At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Taxes was feeling so stuck. Sitting in traffic, squeezing into a parking spot, all to squeeze in getting tax help during your lunch break. Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert who does your taxes for you, while you go about your day getting real-time notifications about their progress and the most money back guaranteed. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile apps. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, you're running over, that's for sure. He already knows all about you. Cut you down, no matter by you. Now you better walk the line. Real life, real
Warning, this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, may contain descriptions of acts of violence or that of a sexual nature and should be for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off of the internet or from some television show. The facts I'm retelling you were presented to me by the victims of the crimes or the perpetrators who committed the crimes against the victims. My descriptions of the crime scenes, what I saw with my own two eyes. If you're going to get offended, please turn this podcast off now. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Woody Overton. And continuing with the state versus Scott Peterson, Scorched, death penalty phase. And I know, I mean, it's kind of interesting anyway, but it's just so stupid that they are putting all these people that, I mean, hadn't seen Scott in 30 years and whatever. You get the gist of it if you're listening to it, right? Y'all don't forget about the live show Saturday, July 19th, Southeastern Louisiana University. They're going to have alcohol and food vendors, and then I'm going to take the stage and do my raw, unscripted, old school, never heard before story. And then afterwards, if you choose, you can go to the VIP event, and first drinks on me, and you know, do pictures and autographs and hang out and have a few drinks and a good time. We also have a block of rooms with a $50 discount at the Home 2 Suites, which is a new hotel in Hammond, Louisiana. And you can get that price for, I think, for like 4 nights or 5 nights or whatever, in case you want to come in and enjoy that part of South Louisiana's culture. But let's just roll on with this death penalty phase, which is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. And today is not going to get any better. They're throwing everything against the wall to save Scott's life, I guess. I mean, I guess they got nothing to lose. But again, if I was on jury, I would want to throw up in my mouth on half of this shit. So we're going to continue on December the 6th again, 2004. The direct examination is by the infamous Mark Garagos. And it's going to be he's going to be interviewing Miss Sandra Bertram. So let's just dive right into this glory, right? So Gary goes, "Good morning, Miss Bertram. We asked you to come and testify. Called you up and asked you if you would. Said you not only would, but you wanted to. Is that correct?" Bertram, "Absolutely." Gary goes, "How is it that you know Scott Peterson?" Bertram, "I worked for Chuck Courtney. I've worked for him since '84. I've known Scott since he was 12 years old. I knew his dad prior to that at another golf club that I worked at. So over the course of 30 years, I've known their family." Gary goes, "Okay, you heard, I guess, Mr. Courtney testify that Scott worked there. Did he work with you?" Bertram, "Yes. He worked out in the back room and did all the menial things that we'd have the kids do. And he was always a pleasure. Interesting. Very smart young man." Gary goes, "How well would you say you got to know him?" Bertram, "Very well. Saw him daily." Gary goes, "On a daily basis?" Bertram, "Uh-huh. He would come to work at the shop, and I knew him first when he was about 12 years old. He used to hang out at the golf shop. He and his dad would play golf in the evenings after Lee got off of work. And he and Jackie would come over and they would all play golf in the afternoon. Jackie would shop a little bit, and I'm a buyer for the golf shop. And so we would visit and talk about family and kids and got to know each other. And I like I said, I knew Lee prior to that at another club that I was at. And it was really nice to see him, to be a member there when I moved to there, relocated." Gary goes, "When you first met him, how long had you been there at the club when you first met Scott?" Bertram, "I would say probably almost immediately, because I think I met Lee. I saw Lee the first day I came to work down there, and I was pleasantly surprised to see a familiar face." Gary goes, "When he was hired, do you remember approximately how old he was? Was he in high school at that point?" Bertram, "No, I do not, I do not remember what age. We usually get them about 15, 16 years old, probably around 16 years of age." Gary goes, "What kind of things do you remember about Scott?" Bertram, "Only good things. I racked my brain throughout this whole thing, trying to think of one single negative thing. And I can't think of one single negative thing about this child or his family. I'm a mom. I have 4 children, and I have 5 grandchildren. And you notice that about children, if they're good kids or bad kids, or arrogant kids, or what have you. Scott was a pleasure. He was always a pleasure. He was a very quiet kid. And I'm so gregarious, and I so used to draw that out of him sometimes. And I've heard the comments that he's non-responsive. Well, Scott Peterson is not non-responsive. He and his dad have had that personality where they are soft-spoken and quiet. And you pretty much have to draw the personality. You got to draw it out of them. Gary goes, "Does he, when he was working with you or for you in doing these tasks, did he exhibit what you would characterize as positive qualities?" Bertram, "Oh, absolutely. We always thought Scott would become something good and complete and wonderful." Gary goes, "What kind of things did he do that you were impressed by a man his age, something. Bertram, he was never angry. He always responded when we asked him to do something. He was always pleasant. He was so respectful of his parents. Anytime I was around him, he was very respectful of me. And that's hard when you're there. I've always been the only woman in the situation of all men. And so, the kids can pick up on kind of the male chauvinistic thing going on. Scott was never like that. He was always very kind, very considerate, and very respectful. Garrus, when I talked to you about him yesterday and again today, you had mentioned that he had a maturity about him. Bertrand, always. It was like a young, an old man in a young man's body. Yeah, very sincere, very soft-spoken. Gary goes, did he have, was he arrogant? Bertram, never. Gary goes, was he respectful towards others? Bertram, always. Gary goes, did he defer to the authority in the sense that if he was working for you or for Mr. Courtney, would he listen to them, both of you, as he was instructed? Bertram, yes. Gary goes, would you say that at some point, even though there was a difference, obviously, in age, did you consider him to be a friend? Bertram, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I sort of take these kids under my wing. They worked for us for a number of years, usually. And I've known most of them since they were also kids. And I see them grow up and become young professionals. Gary guys, would you say that maybe he was even a little bit shy? Bertram, maybe he was shy. He was certainly quiet. Gary goes, do you know why we're here today? Bertram, yes, I do. Gary goes, what the jury is being asked by the prosecution is to put him to death? Bertram, yes, sir. Gary goes, and do you have an opinion about that? Any reason why you think he shouldn't be put to death? Bertram, I can't even imagine that happening. I do not believe that Scott is guilty of this crime. I don't believe that he could have done this. The person that I knew, the family that I knew, the child that I saw daily, he could not have done this. I do not want to see him put to death. Gary goes, do you think the jury's only choice at this point, because we're in what's called the penalty phase, they only have two choices. They can say, put him to death, or they can say life without the possibility of parole, which means he never sees the light of day. Do you think that if they choose either of these options, hopefully choose the option of life without parole, do you think that he would make a positive contribution wherever he is, wherever he's housed? Bertram, Scott will always make a positive contribution, no matter in what situation he's in. I think as the years go on, you're going to find that out. Gary goes, do you have any doubt about that? Bertram, I have absolutely no doubt about that. I wish I could do more or could have done more. Gary goes, thank you. I have no further questions. Come on, man. Get the fuck out of here. Why don't you find somebody to serve him French fries at Burger King one time and see what they thought about him, right? It just goes on and on and on. So next, y'all, we're going to roll right into it. And this guy's name is John Latham, and he's actually Scott's uncle. This should be interesting. And then we're still in the penalty phase. And it's still December the 6th, 2004. But this time, our good old friend, defense attorney Pat Harris, is doing the cross-examination. Let's see if I can get my voice right for this one, y'all. Good morning, Mr. Latham. Some background. I just want to go through sort of your connection with the Peterson family with Scott. So first of all, you are Jackie Peterson's older brother. Is that right? Latham. That's correct. Harris. Would you tell the jury a little bit about, you had how many brothers and sisters? Latham. Well, I have one sister and two brothers. And I'm the oldest of the four of us. Harris. And who is next in the line? Latham. Next in line is my brother Patrick, who's 13 months younger, then my sister, and then our baby brother. Well, not a baby anymore, but the young one. We all know I love me some tacos. They're great every night of the week, not just Taco Tuesday. But Cindy really wants me to eat healthier this year, and Factor's chef-made gourmet meals have made eating well easy. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for my busy lifestyle. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals tailored to your goal. Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto, Factor has it all figured out. My favorite meal has been the jalapeno sweet corn polenta and chicken. Imagine a whole chicken breast marinated in lemon juice, garlic, and smoked paprika, grilled until juicy and topped with a zesty salsa verde. It's served over a creamy Parmesan polenta loaded with diced jalapenos, corn, mozzarella, and scallions. Bell peppers, red onions, and cauliflower are served on the side with fajita spiced butter. It was delicious and nutritious. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use Factor Podcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? I know Cindy was, and if you're a woman, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living rent-free in our environment right now, found in our food, water, and even in our skincare products. These disruptors can wreak havoc on our hormones. Believe me, before Hormone Harmony, I watched Cindy suffer. Not anymore. Hormone Harmony's formula, made only with herbal ingredients, have reduced Cindy's hormonal symptoms, and it helps women of all ages. Then there are the natural hormonal changes our bodies face, such as menopause. While these processes are part of life, they don't have to be uncomfortable. The good news is that you don't have to suffer through it any longer. Hormone Harmony contains science-backed herbal extracts known as adaptogens, designed to help the body cope with stressors, including those chaotic hormonal fluctuations that can disrupt your daily life. Whether it's PMS symptoms like irritability and cravings, or menopause symptoms such as hot flashes and night sweats, Hormone Harmony can help with it all. Happy Mammoth, the creator of Hormone Harmony, is dedicated to improving women's lives by using only high-quality science-backed ingredients. They make no compromises on quality, ensuring that you receive the best support possible. This isn't just a supplement, it has become a phenomenon. Women are talking about it everywhere, with a bottle of Hormone Harmony sold every 24 seconds. And the most important benefit, women express feeling like themselves again. A sentiment echoed in over 30,000 positive reviews. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com. Don't forget to use the code RLRC for 15% off today. Harris. So it's you, then there's Patrick, then there's Jackie, and then there's Bob. Is that right? Latham. That's correct. Harris. And Jackie, how much younger than you? Latham. I guess 5 years. She tells us the same age, I think, for many years, somewhere in that area. Harris. Where were you born? Latham. I was born in San Diego, California. Harris. At a very early age, was there a tragedy in your family? Latham. I'd say there was a tragedy in our family. Harris. What happened? Latham. Our father, he was murdered in a robbery when I was 5. Harris. Your father owned his own business? Latham. He did. Harris. He was robbed and killed? Latham. He was robbed at his own business place, and I was the oldest of the 4 of us. Harris. How old were you when he was murdered? Latham. I was 5. Harris. How old was Jackie at the time? Latham. She would have been very young, younger than I by 5 years. I guess she was a baby. Harris. After your father was murdered, your mother, well, let me ask you this. Your mother had a medical condition. Is that right? Latham. She developed a medical condition, I think, from the stress of my father's death. Harris. What was that medical condition? Latham. It's a fairly rare skin disease called scleroderma, where your skin deteriorates and becomes brittle and it cracks. And she just progressively got worse then until she passed away from that disease. Harris. After your father died, for most of her life, was she bedridden? Latham. She was. Harris. At that point, or some point, because of her situation, were you put into an orphanage? Latham. We were. My mom tried to take care of us initially after my father's death, and she couldn't do that with 4 of us and work and try to make things happen as best as I recall. Certain things I do remember about that time of my life, but there is other things that, that I don't. But she eventually put us in this orphanage with the Catholic sisters at Nazareth House in San Diego, at the mission there. Harris. And you stayed there until you were how old? Latham. Well, it was a school that started, I think, K. I remember young kids there. Maybe not kindergarten, but the 8th grade was the highest grade there. From there, you had to go to school. You went to high school. Harris. Now, you have had sort of an interesting life. What did you do after you got out of high school? Latham. Well, when I got out of high school, I started working for the city of San Diego, the aquatics division. We grew up near the beach and we were around the water all the time. So it was a good job. I did all kinds of jobs. I think all of our family worked at an early age and developed, good work ethics and habits. So I worked for the city aquatic division. Gradually became a lifeguard there and a full-time lifeguard while I was going to city college after I completed high school. Harris. Did you then move on to Colorado? Latham. I did. Harris. What did you do there? Latham. I got a real interest in skiing, and so I left the area that I was living in and moved to Colorado. And from that point, I got drafted into the military, and I spent 2 years in the military. Harris. What'd you do in the military? Latham. I was in a special forces group. That's what I was in. Harris. After you got out of the military, I know you spent some time at Cape Canaveral, Florida. Latham. I did. When I got out of the military, I had a clearance that allowed me to easily work on the Saturn, the Apollo project, which was the first moonshot thing at the time. So I was fortunate to work at Cape Canaveral. And I spent 1.5 years working at Cape Canaveral, and downrange in the Bahamas. Harris. I know at some point after that you migrated to Alaska. Is that right? Latham. After a year and a half of working there, I had the opportunity to go to Alaska and go hunting there. And hunting was always a passion to me. It's something that I developed an interest in pretty much on my own in high school. And so there was an opportunity. And I made enough money and I could do something like that. So I did that. Harris. How old were you at that time? Latham. Well, I'd say I was early 20s, 23 or 24. Harris. You're there today, is that right? Latham. That's correct. I live there as we speak. Harris. Stayed there ever since? Latham. Yes. Harris. What is it you do in Alaska? Latham. Well, we have a bed and breakfast guiding business. My wife and I, our family, I say our family, are girls. They have always worked with us and for us, and we guide big game hunting. We guide fishing in the summertime, and we operate it as a B&B in the wintertime. Harris. What's the name of the town? Latham. The name of the town is Yakutat, Alaska. Harris. What part of Alaska is that? Latham. It's in the southeastern, almost exactly between Juneau and Cordova. Harris. You mentioned children. How many children do you have? Latham. I had 4 children. Harris. And what are their names? Latham. Well, I have 3 now. We lost a boy, 23 years old. Harris. But what are the names of the 3 that are living? Latham. The 3 that are? Well, one of them is with us here. Rachel, Anna, and Jennifer. 3 girls. Harris. At some point, you made a decision while your children were in junior high to move them back to California. Is that true? Latham. That's correct. We live in a small village. It's a primarily native village. It is a secluded place with no road system to it. And the school system, as good as it is, it was limited. And we wanted our children to have a little more education, hoping to go on to college. So we brought them down and gave them the opportunity, which was an opportunity and decision on their part to attend school in San Luis Obispo. Harris. Where exactly did you move them? Latham. Well, we moved to Morro Bay. We rented a place there in the wintertime, but we still had to maintain our business and try to keep that going. So we would come down with them in the wintertime, and eventually we started coming back down, spending several months in the winter, which is our off season. Harris. When they weren't living with you, where did they, excuse me, let me start at the beginning. Rachel is the oldest, right? Latham. Rachel is the youngest. Harris. Oh, youngest. Where did Rachel live while she was in San Luis Obispo? Latham. She lived with Lee and Jackie part of the time and part of the school years. Harris. Your relationship with Jackie when you were growing up, you were separated for a good part of that time. Is that right? Latham. We had a scattered childhood just because of the timing of ages. We're different. I graduated and went on to high school. She was still at the school orphanage there. And so we weren't very, very close. And in some ways, we just kind of pursued our own things, and we all worked at different jobs and things. And it was later on, as we started having families, that we renewed. I mean, like, I think it was very common things for many people to do. As you get older, you have family, and you tend to get back together when you weren't so close, when you were younger. Harris: was Jackie instrumental trying to bring family back together? Latham: she is probably the heartbeat of our family. Harris: by the time you had left your daughter Rachel to live with her, you had reconnected, more or less? Latham: that's correct. Because of Jackie, she contacted everybody. She's always been the mover and the shaker in the family, if you will, to try to get reunions together and get everybody, and always extended herself to everything, along with Lee. But she's the only one that would do the calling, and you bring this and you bring that. Harris: I think you told me she never misses a birthday. She always sends a card, that kind of thing. Latham: she never missed mine, or my wife's, or my daughter's. Harris: the time she spent with your daughter while she was in Morro Bay, you had the chance to be able to spend some time with Jackie also, because you would come down and visit. Is that right? Harris: Latham: that's correct. Harris: and the more you got to sort of reconnect with your sister, what did you find out about her as far as being a person? What kind of person was she? Latham: well, she's a sweetheart. She's been a sweetheart to her family. She is one of those rare people that rarely says a bad thing about anybody, even if she doesn't like them. She's stoic about things and thinks about things. She is absolutely delightful. She would do anything for anybody. I mean, someone on the street would have as good a dinner at her house as I would, probably. Harris: when you say she's stoic, is that somewhat of a family trait from your side of the family? Latham: well, I've seen that in her. I've seen it in myself. Although we do get emotional at times. We've had a lot of things happen in our lives, and you move on. You try to sort it out. And I would say she's not a whiner or a crier. Harris: as you reconnected with Jackie, you also came to know her son, Scott. Is that right? Latham: that's true. Harris: what would be the opportunity that you would have to see Scott? I know you were in Alaska most of the time. Latham: that's correct. So my time with Scott, it's not as much as other parts of the family because of where we live. But I would see Scott, and I've known Scott since he was born, and their whole family. As much as we could get together, we would. 10, 15 years ago, our biggest time spent together was probably, they would try to make annual trips to Alaska with all the family, all the boys. And this would be usually over Thanksgiving, where we'd have a chance to catch up on things for the whole year, that kind of thing. And quite frankly, up to that point, not a lot of us had a lot of money. And it cost a lot of money to go take the whole family back and forth. We were all working. All of their kids were working and would spend a part of their money to get up there, help themselves get up there. And we would have just a really nice week, bird shooting generally. And then I would see Scott when I was there and when I was in San Luis Obispo. As I said, one of her daughters, the oldest one, when she started school in San Luis Obispo, she was a year ahead of the other one. So one was in grade school in Los Osos, which is very near San Luis Obispo. Judge, go back to question and answer. Harris, you were actually, when your daughter Rachel moved to San Luis Obispo, that was a time period that Scott was actually going to school there. Is that right? Latham, that's correct. Harris, so you had a chance when you were coming to visit, a little more chance to interact with Scott at that time as well? Latham, I did. Harris, you told me last night how there was a problem with interacting because he was, what was he generally doing? Latham, he was usually working, a couple of jobs. And he was, we would get together for dinner. Where he worked, we would go there for dinner. We were there. He would come to our house on a regular basis and take the girls' places and help out in that capacity when we were here. Harris, when you watch the relationship between Scott and his mother, what comments come to mind? Latham, well, it's a very loving family as far as I'm concerned. He loves his mother, loves his father. I think we have close-knit families. We didn't have a lot of family when we were young, so I think maybe that's part of it. But they have been very close, and he's always been very respectful to me. I've heard this said several times before, but I've never seen any disrespect of any kind or arrogance from Scott. Harris, you said he would come up, they would come up for these trips to Alaska to see you when he was a young boy. Did he get teased a lot by his brothers? Latham, well, they put it on him. He took it pretty well. He participated and he did his share of loading and unloading, all the kind of things you do when you're having fun. There's certainly a lot of work that's involved. Harris, always going to work? Latham, he was always in there. Harris, you mentioned to me as we were coming to court today, something had come to mind about your wife. Did you have the opportunity to meet Lacey? Latham, we knew Lacey, yes. We had dinner with Scott and Lacey several occasions. And as always, when we were down here, Lacey was never at her home. She never came to Alaska. But we would see her on a pretty regular basis. She was in and out of my sister's house and out of Jackie's house all the time. They were very close.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Taxes was feeling so stuck. Sitting in traffic, squeezing into a parking spot, all to squeeze in getting tax help during your lunch break. Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert who does your taxes for you, while you go about your day getting real-time notifications about their progress and the most money back guaranteed. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile apps. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
Harris, when you say they're very close, did Jackie treat her as almost like a daughter? Latham, exactly like a daughter. Harris, I was mentioning, you had mentioned about a story of Lacey and Scott involving your wife having to go to the hospital. Could you tell us about that? Latham, well, it's just one of those things that I think most family members would do. But my wife was here alone. I was following her, coming down here to take care of things for a couple of weeks in Alaska. And she ended up having to go to the emergency room. Jackie and Lee were gone. They tried to call him, and Scott got the call. And he came over to Lacey, and he took her to the emergency room in Morro Bay or Los Osos. I'm not sure which hospital she went to. And then he took Lacey home, and then he came back and spent hours, several hours with her. And he gave her a ride. She ended up not staying there. Harris, from what you had seen, did that generally fit Scott's personality, the type of person that he was? Latham, he was always very helpful. Harris, you've been sitting here in this courtroom today. You have obviously heard us talk about why we're here. And I'll ask you the question as well. Do you feel like Scott should be given life in prison as opposed to the death penalty? Latham, I do. Harris, why? Latham, I just feel that this young man, for one, I don't believe he's guilty. I know he's guilty by trial, but in my heart, I cannot believe that. I've known this guy. I've known his family. I just can't believe that. And I would not like to see him die. It would tear our family apart. Harris, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's all I have. And y'all, come on, man. His mom and dad weren't around to take his aunt to the hospital. He took her to the hospital. When he went to Alaska to go hunting, he helped load and unload shit. The part about how many brothers and sisters do you have? I get Jackie's included in that. The part about them living in an orphanage, the dudes in special forces, and what the fuck, right? Of course they ask each one of them at the end, do you think he should get the death penalty, or do you think he should get life in prison? Or do you think if he gets life in prison, he could, live a good life and help other people? Well, what the fuck do you think they're going to get up there and say? No, fuck him. He cut the baby out of Lacey's belly. He murdered her, or vice versa. And I think he should be put to death. He's a piece of fucking shit. No. You're not going to get that from his uncle. You're not going to get that from his golf coach, who only became didn't even know how to fucking play golf when they anointed him golf coach. You're not going to get that from the lady he worked with at the golf pro shop. You're not going to get that from his high school classmate he gave rides to. So, Scorched, again, if I'm on the jury and I'm listening to it over and over again, I mean, who gives a fuck what this guy did, or any of them did, what their history is? What did you do as a kid? Was your family tight? What does that have to do with Scott Peterson murdering his fucking wife and killing his kid? Absolutely nothing, right? I don't get it. It's scorched. And I don't know, but we're going to continue it until we're done. And we're not that far from being done, thankfully, but you're listening to it. The numbers are growing. Everybody loves the Scott Peterson story. And I don't know, Innocence Project in Los Angeles, they took the case on because it's high profile. No other reason. If this had been some dude that murdered his wife and kid, that didn't have all the news media coverage and all the shit that this case got, then you never heard about it. Because I guarantee you there's 10,000 plus of them in the penal system in the state of California that done acts at least as bad as this or even worse. And you never hear about them because it wasn't a story. back in the day, right? So Scott Peterson, it is what it is. And boy, they better pray to God that tape doesn't come back. But when the prosecution, like I told you again last week, man, they fucked up. They really, really messed some things up. But it is what it is. It's Scorched, State versus Scott Peterson. And I'm done with it for this week. Thank you for liking and listening and sharing. I appreciate and love each and every one of y'all. Y'all look, hashtag justice for Haley. By this time, and I'm pre-recording this early, by the time you hear this, we should be at the wrap-up stage. And I'm going to need you to listen to Miss Barbara, Stella, and Tyler ask you for your help. It's going to be important. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we get justice for Haley? That's what it's all about, right? But anyway, that's going to be concluding. And thank y'all for tuning into True Crime Time 4 with Cindy and I. The numbers don't lie. It's a great show. It's totally different than everything else we do. And I don't know, once again, Saturday, July 19th, if it's not sold out already, taking a stage, Southeastern Louisiana University in the city of Hammond, Louisiana. And we got lifers already bought tickets from all over the United States that are coming in. And we do have rooms blocked off at the Home to Suites Hilton, new property, a year old in Hammond. Hammond is a great town. Some of the best food and best atmosphere. It's chill. It's a great place. Of course, the university is there. I think it's probably the second largest university in the state of Louisiana. But either way, we're going to be there. We'll be there for the weekend. Going to do a live, raw, and unscripted show. Won't be in a bar room like the crew bashes have been, but there will be alcohol and there will be food. But it's a theater. This place was built for a dude to get on stage, and everybody has a great seat. Everybody gets to hear what I'm going to be laying down. And some people may not like that, but that's okay. Raw and unscripted, and I'll give the warning before I start. And the VIP event follows, right? And the first drink's on me. Miss Barbara Blunt's case, y'all, please don't ever forget about it. Please continue to call on your tips. And I know I don't talk about this enough, but I still probably get 1 or 2 tips a week, maybe now, 1 a week now. But every time I mention it, her case, somebody always calls in something else. And don't think it's, that we're not doing anything with it. I can promise you, whatever you call in, either it's already been done or we went out and did it. And I'm talking about they've gone out and dug up some spots and things tips that were called in and interviewed some people and tips that were called in. And the one difference on this case and Haley's case and Courtney Coco's case and Mary Pucho's case is the sheriff wants this case solved, right? The law enforcement professionals at Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office want Miss Barbara Blunt's case solved. It's gone on too long, y'all. In May, geez Louise, is next month, and it's her murderversary. And never found her body, but I guarantee you she was murdered. We need one straw to break the camel's back. Somebody out there has it. Okay. They did not abduct her, murder her, and conceal her body without someone knowing something. So please continue to call it in. LOPA, Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency, nonprofit. It's my jam. There's such a group of fantastic people, and they help through not only getting people to sign up to be organ donors, but when the process actually goes through and the hero organs are collected to be distributed to other people to help save their lives, they help these families. They help them during the process. They help them after the process, like Missy Jewell. Still works with them closely to this day. And her son, Reese, he was a hero. And I got to hunt with one of the young man from New Iberia. I got to hunt with him in Wisconsin. I got to sit in the blind with him, touching shoulder to shoulder. And the only reason I got to hunt with him is because he was alive, because Reese was a hero, because of LOPA and organ donor. So Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency, you don't have to be a lifer from Louisiana to sign up to be an organ donor. You could be a lifer from Zimbabwe. Go to lopa.org, take 2 minutes, fill out the questionnaire, become a hero, give the gift of life and sight and all the other great things those people do. And I'm Woody Overton, your host of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And until next time or ever, don't let me catch you down on Murder Bayou. Peace. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to and during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, you running's over, that's for sure. He already knows all about you. Cut you down on Murder Bayou. Now you better walk the line. Real life, real crime.
Warning, this episode.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.